10,000 years ago, a single unfamiliar footprint near a river could decide whether a whole tribe lived or died. Your ancestors did not have police, cameras, or background checks to warn them about a dangerous person approaching their camp. Instead, they relied on something far older, something buried so deep in your brain that it still fires today without you noticing. Right now, in a crowded room, your body is silently scanning every stranger for tiny signals of threat, just like it did 50,000 years ago. Scientists studying hunter-gatherer societies have found that this ancient threat detection system was so precise it could read danger from a person's walk alone. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly how ancient humans spotted a dangerous stranger before a single word was spoken. You will also learn why your own gut feeling about certain people might be an inherited survival tool passed down from the Stone Age. This is not folklore or guesswork, because modern anthropology and neuroscience have both confirmed pieces of this ancient warning system. Researchers who study small-scale societies, meaning tribes that still live similarly to our distant ancestors, keep finding the same pattern everywhere. Recognizing a dangerous stranger was never about magic or mysticism. It was a finely tuned survival skill built from thousands of years of experience. Later in this video, I will explain why babies as young as 6 months already show fear of unfamiliar faces, a trait researchers call stranger anxiety. I will also explain how ancient body markings, like scars and tattoos, worked as an early form of identity verification long before passports existed. And I will show you why a stranger sent alone could once determine whether they were welcomed with food or driven away with spears. Many people assume early humans were simply afraid of anyone they did not know, reacting with blind panic or instant aggression. But here's what most people don't realize. Ancient stranger recognition was actually a slow, layered process built on multiple types of evidence. Anthropologists studying groups like the Yanomami people of the Amazon have documented a careful sequence used before deciding if a newcomer was safe. The first layer of judgment was almost always visual, meaning ancient people studied a stranger's posture, clothing, and movement from a safe distance first. A confident, steady walk suggested health and strength, while a hesitant or erratic walk could signal illness, injury, or hidden intentions. Imagine a small group of hunter-gatherers resting beside a fire when a lone figure appears at the edge of the tree line. Nobody moves at first, because everyone in the group is quietly reading the stranger's body language for clues about danger. The children are pulled slightly closer to the adults, an instinctive protective response found across nearly every documented human culture. One elder studies the stranger's hands specifically, checking whether they are empty, holding a weapon, or hidden behind the back. This single habit, watching a stranger's hands first, has been observed by anthropologists in isolated tribes on nearly every continent. There is something even stranger almost nobody talks about, and it involves how ancient humans used smell as a genuine security tool. Researchers studying scent-based recognition have found that humans can subconsciously detect stress hormones released through another person's sweat. In small hunter-gatherer bands, everyone shared a similar diet and environment, which created a recognizable communal scent among trusted group members. A stranger carrying an unfamiliar scent, perhaps from a different diet or territory, would trigger immediate and often unconscious suspicion. This is not unlike how modern humans sometimes describe an unfamiliar person as making them feel uneasy without knowing exactly why. Neuroscientists now believe this reaction comes from the amygdala, the brain's ancient alarm center, processing subtle cues faster than conscious thought. Many assume ancient societies were closed off and violently hostile toward every outsider who approached their territory. But real anthropological evidence tells a more balanced story, showing that most tribal societies developed structured rituals for testing strangers rather than attacking them immediately. Among many Pacific Island cultures, including groups studied in Papua New Guinea, formal greeting rituals served as a kind of live interrogation. A stranger might be asked to name distant relatives, recount local landmarks, or describe recent events only someone from that region would know. If the answers matched what the group already believed to be true, trust slowly began to build between both parties. If the stranger hesitated, contradicted themselves, or gave vague answers, suspicion would deepen immediately among the watching group. This early form of verbal cross-examination functioned almost exactly like a modern identity check, just without any paperwork involved. Gift exchange also played a surprisingly important role in this ancient system of judging strangers. Offering a small, valuable item, like food, tools, or ornaments, was often used to test a stranger's honesty and intentions. A stranger who accepted a gift and offered something meaningful in return signaled cooperation and respect for social norms. A stranger who took the gift and offered nothing back, or who tried to grab more than was given, revealed a selfish or predatory nature. Anthropologists call this reciprocal exchange, and it remains one of the oldest tested methods for measuring trustworthiness across human history. There is a reason this pattern still matters to you personally, even in the modern world you live in today. Psychologists have found that modern humans still unconsciously judge new acquaintances based on small acts of give and take, just like our ancestors did. Someone who never reciprocates a favor often triggers the same subtle distrust that a stingy stranger would have triggered 10,000 years ago. Body markings offered another powerful layer of ancient stranger recognition, working almost like a visual passport system. Tribal scarification, meaning intentional scarring patterns cut into the skin, often indicated which specific group, clan, or region a person belonged to. Facial tattoos among groups like the Maori of New Zealand carried detailed information about ancestry, achievements, and social standing. A trained eye could instantly recognize whether a person's markings matched a known and trusted group or an unfamiliar and potentially hostile one. This meant identity verification was literally written on a person's skin, readable at a glance from a safe distance. But here's the thing most documentaries leave out: these markings were not just decorative, they were functional survival technology. A missing or incorrect marking could mean the difference between a warm welcome and an immediate defensive response from an entire village. Oral tradition, meaning stories and warnings passed down by speech rather than writing, added another crucial layer of protection. Elders in many tribal societies were responsible for remembering the reputations of neighboring groups across many years, sometimes even generations. A community might recall that a certain neighboring group had a history of raiding, deception, or broken agreements passed down through storytelling. This collective memory allowed ancient humans to judge strangers not only by immediate behavior but by inherited group reputation as well. Modern researchers studying oral cultures have confirmed that these stories remained remarkably accurate over long stretches of time. This shows that ancient information networks, though informal, were surprisingly reliable tools for community-wide risk assessment. Shamans and spiritual leaders in many cultures also played a specific role in evaluating unfamiliar visitors. In several documented Siberian and Amazonian tribes, a shaman would perform a ritual specifically designed to sense a stranger's intentions or hidden motives. While modern science cannot verify any supernatural component to these rituals, anthropologists note they often served a very practical social function. The ritual gave the community time to observe the stranger closely, while a respected authority figure made the final judgment. This slowed down decision-making during a tense moment, reducing the chance of a rushed and potentially deadly mistake. Imagine again that same fire from earlier, except now the stranger has been invited to sit at its edge. The group watches closely as the newcomer eats the food offered to them, checking whether they eat calmly or anxiously scan the surroundings. Someone quietly notices that the stranger keeps glancing toward the group's stored supplies rather than making genuine conversation. This single observation is enough to shift the entire group's judgment from cautious welcome to firm suspicion. By morning, the stranger is given directions to leave peacefully, but is never invited to stay within the camp itself. There is a myth worth addressing directly: the idea that ancient humans were simply xenophobic, meaning fearful or hateful toward all outsiders. Evolutionary psychologists studying in-group and out-group behavior have found something more nuanced than blind hatred of anyone unfamiliar. Early humans were cautious by default, but this caution was flexible and could shift quickly based on new evidence. Trade routes, intermarriage between different groups, and shared ceremonies all prove that ancient humans regularly welcomed strangers who passed their trust tests. The danger response was never permanent hostility. It was simply a careful pause before deciding whether cooperation was possible. This matters today because modern research shows humans still carry the same flexible caution encoded into everyday social behavior. You do not distrust every unfamiliar person you meet forever. You simply pause briefly to gather more information first. That brief pause, that instinct to observe before trusting, is a direct evolutionary echo of ancient stranger assessment. Modern psychologists studying first impressions have found people form judgments about trustworthiness within just 100 milliseconds of seeing a new face. This astonishingly fast judgment likely descends from the same rapid threat scanning system our ancestors relied on for physical survival. Interestingly, studies on infant behavior support this ancient inheritance even more directly than adult psychology alone. Babies around 6 to 8 months old, long before they can speak, already show clear signs of distress around unfamiliar faces. Developmental psychologists call this stranger anxiety, and they consider it one of the earliest and most universal human survival instincts. This suggests the ability to differentiate familiar from unfamiliar people is not learned culture, but hardwired biology shaped over deep evolutionary time. There's something even stranger almost nobody talks about, and it involves how isolated island tribes handle strangers even in the present day. The Sentinelese people living on North Sentinel Island remain one of the last groups with almost no contact with the outside world. Their consistent and immediate rejection of outsiders offers modern researchers a rare living example of ancient stranger danger instincts in action today. While their situation is unique and protected by international law for their safety, it mirrors patterns anthropologists see in ancient historical records. Extreme isolation combined with historical trauma from past outside contact can intensify defensive behavior toward any unfamiliar visitor. This reminds us that stranger recognition was never a fixed rulebook, but a response shaped heavily by a group's specific history and experience. Now think for a moment about how much of this ancient system still quietly operates inside your own daily life. You may not check a stranger's scent or study elaborate facial scars, but you still read tone of voice, posture, and eye contact instinctively. You still notice when someone avoids answering a simple question directly, just as ancient humans noticed inconsistency during their own questioning rituals. You still feel that subtle unease when someone seems too eager for something you have not yet offered them. Modern life has traded fires and tree lines for offices and online messages, but the underlying detection system remains remarkably unchanged. Let's bring everything together and look at what ancient humans actually understood about recognizing danger in an unfamiliar person. They read posture and movement first, watching for confidence, hesitation, or hidden aggression from a safe distance. They paid close attention to scent, an overlooked sense that modern neuroscience now confirms can detect subtle signs of stress. They tested strangers through structured conversation, checking for consistent answers about shared knowledge and local details. They used gift exchange as a practical trust experiment, watching whether reciprocity or greed defined a newcomer's behavior. They relied on visible identity markers like scarification and tattoos to instantly recognize group membership from a distance. They preserved oral history across generations, allowing entire communities to judge strangers based on inherited group reputation. And they used respected figures, like elders and shamans, to slow down high-stakes decisions during moments of genuine uncertainty. None of these methods were perfect, and mistakes certainly happened throughout human history in every region of the world. But together, these layered techniques kept small, vulnerable communities alive across tens of thousands of years of uncertainty and change. The next time you feel a sudden, unexplainable sense of caution around someone new, remember that feeling has ancient roots. It is not superstition, and it is not something to be ashamed of. It is inherited wisdom refined over an enormous span of human history. Modern life may look nothing like a fire-lit camp beside a river, but your instincts still remember exactly how to read a stranger. If this journey into ancient survival psychology fascinated you, consider subscribing so you never miss the next deep dive into forgotten human wisdom. Hit the like button if you learned something new about the hidden instincts still shaping your everyday decisions. And share this video with someone who loves uncovering the surprising ways our ancestors continue to shape who we are today. There are many more forgotten survival secrets waiting to be explored in future videos. So stay curious and stay tuned.